name is Annabelle. I'm from AirSwap, a decentralized exchange built on Ethereum. And I lead Asia growth efforts here, and very honored to be joined by these four panelists, four gentlemen here. So maybe let's start with a quick intro.
I'm Ryan Rabaglia, head of trading for OSL. You may have seen us on two other panels over the last 2 days. OSL is Asia's leading digital asset brokerage. We provide institutional-grade digital asset products to our customers. Our customer base is predominantly comprised of family offices, asset managers, hedge funds, and the like.
I'm Gary. I'm the founder and CEO of CoTrader, and we're the world's first live blockchain-based investment funds marketplace where anyone can create a crypto investment fund and anyone anywhere can join it and have proof of performance of that fund manager's ROI in the past and know what the performance fees will be. And investors can withdraw at any time. It's non-custodial. The fund manager doesn't hold your funds, but he can make trades for you. So that's where we're coming.
My name's Jethro Glover. I work for Tora and Caspian. Tora has been around for about 15 years. It's a front-to-back solution for the buy side in the traditional world. And what we've done is we've forked the Tora system and we've created a platform for crypto called Caspian, which focuses on multi-exchange, multi-OTC, as I said, front-to-back for crypto.
Hello. Hi, guys. Clement from Genesis Block. We're OTC. We run one of the biggest community in Hong Kong in crypto. Background in mining.
Awesome, thanks guys. So I guess just to piggyback on the last panel when we were discussing the latest trends in the market. So maybe we can start with, and a lot of people mentioned tokenized securities, tokenized assets, right? And stable coins being the tokenized dollar, tokenized sterling of that kind. Where do you guys see the growth in that this year?
Maybe I'll go a little bit of a different direction. I mean, different types of trends that we're seeing over the last half a year, of course, is markets that are not spot markets. So essentially building out over-the-counter derivatives markets. Of course, it's already been done on exchange and in a limited fashion over the counter, but we do believe that that's where the biggest growth point is going to be in the industry. Along with that is going to need to be some sort of regulated environment with the participants, traders, investors, providers being more of a compliant nature and not necessarily being these sort of Wild West type figures that are sort of lurking around the space. So I'd say from a product standpoint that is probably the biggest trend that we're seeing, and then that's something we're really excited to be a part of.
Yeah, I would agree. With the spot, with the spread being tightened and also kind of a range-bound market, I guess the new business opportunity will be moving towards derivatives market. But there is still a lack of standardization, right, in terms of forward swaps or options market. So where do you guys think the solution to that is, or have there been any discussions around it?
Well, we're seeing some developments also for these shorts, DYDX and things like that on chain. As far as FX, once we're talking about stable coins in the last panel, stable coins of different currencies, Swiss franc, US dollar, and so on. You can, you'll be able to trade them, hold baskets of them, fund management, on chain for these kind of products. Moving forward, especially as the technology progresses and is a little, more performant and easier to use, then I think that we'll see a lot more of that. On one hand, you can have, for example, regulated products that allow KYC waitlisting and so on. On the other hand, there can be the kind of products that aren't as regulated, so it opens up a new space. That is a little bit more free and can maybe push the boundaries a little bit more.
Yeah, I was just going to say, a year ago when we spoke to most of the institutional clients that deal with the Caspian product, the key was there to have as many exchanges on the platform. They were saying you have to have 70. Well, it's really not the case these days. It's really the top top 10 exchanges they need onto the Caspian platform, and very much so it's gone down the OTC route, and we're adding the OTC side of things to the platform. So that's where we also see the growth in the OTC side.
I guess from the AirSwap space point of view, right? We started off as a very retail-driven marketplace, and now we're also looking to the OTC space, and we're obviously hoping for more of a standardized market, and obviously with the growth of DYDX and Dharma that allows short or leveraged ETH on the market. I guess any other growth areas that you see in the space.
I think, well, Caspian is I'll give a plug here. Caspian is a great platform that's come out, so I think there's a trend going in that direction too, is more institutional grade platform type solutions. I think everyone knows to be logging into 15 different exchanges and dealing with all different API connections, all of them being very unstable, is not ideal, and it's not built for growth. It's not built for institutional engagement. It is a retail-specific way of trading and engaging with the market. So actually, I think this year, well, starting last year, but it got off to a little bit of a slow start, is sort of that further development of institutional-grade platforms and solutions that enable sophisticated traders, investors like ourselves, and like some of you out there, to actually engage with the market in a more compliant and secure manner.
I think even things like OTC, even for trading. For example, we have BISC network that allows decentralized way for you to trade even with fiat and so on. And there could be even more sophisticated ways that don't require arbitrators. If you can connect, for example, even to an API of a bank, oracles can start doing things like OTC even on chain with smart escrows and these kind of things. We may be seeing things develop in that direction as well. It's an interesting field to look into.
I think Ryan just touched on the compliance side. I think that's definitely a key part of having sort of institutional grade. You deal with a lot of these exchanges, and if you do a fat finger, you may as well say goodbye to your trade, where you have different limit checks in place to obviously make it institutional grade. That's very, very key to bring it to the market.
And I guess another trend of this year is that a lot of people think that there will be more institutional flow in this market, and what do you think are the challenges and other solutions to really onboard them? I guess you are building infrastructure for a great UI for institutional traders, but to bring the real the bigger financial institutions to the space, with the current market, it's still being very segmented in terms of liquidity, and there's not great or trustworthy custody solutions. What are your guys' thoughts on that, and what are the solutions to it?
I think with the liquidity, for example, CoTrader uses Kyber to do our trades. We're fund management, and we prove the performance because it's on the blockchain. We use Kyber, but there's not a whole lot of liquidity there. But one thing that we're looking into, and I think others are as well, is, for example, concept of a smart escrow. So basically, you put on, you ask for a certain liquidity, and anyone anywhere can service it by sending back to the escrow. And I think that this kind of space will grow a lot, and we'll then see. Were you asking about liquidity, you're saying? So I think that's one of the solutions, and the other one is where we see, for example, Totle app is doing like DEX, aggregation. So I think this is another direction that will improve the overall liquidity as well as just the overall performance. Once performance is better, we'll see a lot more of it as well. Yeah.
I think also, so a lot of wow words are being thrown out over the last year plus. We've used a few of them. So I mean, along the lines of making sure that everything is extremely compliant, and that's pretty much the only way that this next step of this evolution is really going to sort of spin out into what we all aspire it to be. And along with that comes market surveillance on exchanges, insurance through custody. A lot of things that everyone has been talking about, or feels like it's been spoken about into infinity at this point, but none of it's actually been delivered. So I think we're we haven't come that far in the last year. I think there's been a lot of cute things that have happened in the last year, but nothing truly, truly deliverable to the extent to which we need for this next step of this evolution.
And I guess in this bear run of the market, have you guys seen any new money coming in, either from a retail or from more institutions side of things? And what are the flows you're seeing these days?
I think. Oh, did you want to go?
We're definitely not seeing any new money coming in this space. Most of our flow are coming in from people still trying to do arbitrage. We think it's super. We don't really think institutions are going to come in the next year or two. What Genesis Block we're working on is really hold high net worth hands and show them how crypto works. Whether it's like setting up a Bitcoin wallet or just going back to basics. There's a lot of fluff in this space with all the ICOs, and now a lot of people are talking about STOs. Not sure really if this is going to take off this year.
I think that, for example, ICOs showed that there is a big need, desire. People. It was one of the killer apps. I mean, Bitcoin is a killer app of blockchain. Obviously, it's sort of gold 2.0 and store of value and so on. And ICOs, there is demand for this thing, but it was a wild west. I mean, think about it. You just threw $30 million at some company, no strings attached at all, and and they just disappear with some random ideas and so on, even if they had best intentions. So I think that things like an ICO 2.0, let's call it, platform, like a Kickstarter 2.0, where, for example, one concept is, Vitalik introduced this DICO idea that where you would have funds released slowly and refunds. But I think one of the problems was with that is that the refunds were voted. So, I mean, it's kind of funny to have to require your neighbor to vote for you to get your refund of something, right? So refunds should be individual, and maybe they could be up to, 100% minus 5% a month, let's say. So the 5% a month goes to the team, and you could always refund. And one idea, for example, at CoTrader, we want to also be able to invest our fund managers into ICOs. So this is why we're thinking about this. And one thing would be, for example, that the ETH is converted automatically to DAI so that it doesn't disappear when the market falls, right? So I think that this will mature, and there have been only like these cute little things happening so far. And one of the reasons is it's a pretty new technology. It took Einstein 200 years after Newton to get to where he was. So maybe it'll take a few more years to progress the blockchain as well. But I think that decentralized finance, DeFi, this space is going to be growing, and there is the compliance side. But I mean, after all, blockchain is kind of a defiant technology. So I think that it's going to be pushing the boundaries on regulations and regulations would eventually loosen up and so on, just like we saw from Airbnb and we saw from Uber. Finance is a tougher field to deregulate or push the boundaries on, but I think we're going to have to see that because there's going to be international competition, and the United States and the SEC isn't going to be able to control everything forever, and the marketplace is going to want performance, and legitimate platforms and so on are going to eventually win out.
Yeah, I think the true value of this year, I think, is really going to be about people putting their heads down and thinking strategically, and not worrying about being loud and obnoxious about the next thing that's actually going to be launched. Sure, there will be some great things that are going to be launched if you do actually choose that direction. But I really do think the greatest value will be people putting their head down, thinking strategically, moving those chess pieces around, having the true people that are really going to be staying in this space actually anchor down and sort of continue to build out. If they're infrastructure guys, then that's what they're going to be doing. If they're platform guys, that's exactly what they're going to be doing. Traders, investors, same thing. With the people that are going to be lasting in this space through the next 10, 20 years are going to be the ones that really put their foot down over this next year.
Yeah, I can't agree more. So just piggyback off that, are there any new business areas or trading opportunities that you guys have in the pipe?
Stablecoin arbitrage. Yeah, funnily enough, that is a pretty big opportunity. I won't go into it too much, though.
Well, I think with the stable coins, for example, one of the big benefits is that they can be they can interoperate with smart contracts. So programmable for programmable reasons. So that's obviously, just like you guys said, a big growing field. And then I had another one, but I'll come back to it if anyone else has.
I think the idea is just like all these stablecoin issuers are trying to get as much market cap as possible. USDT started, well, that's Bitfinex. They started off, they've got like 2 billion worth of cash. Now we have, 3 or 4 other people come into the space, and it's a pretty good business model. You just put it in the bank and you get a bunch of interest rate. So I think everyone's just they're giving, let's just say they're giving market makers incentive to pick it up at a decent price, and you just flip it.
I mean, I think you can't blame them for actually attempting that, but I think maybe these issuers sort of underestimated sort of the ethics of someone who's looking for arbitrage, and whether they promise to make markets on it or whatnot is sort of irrelevant, because they're going to go grab that dollar or whatever they get out of the trade immediately, and they're going to keep doing it over and over. So you can't really blame these issuers of these stablecoins for putting forth these incentives, because it is needed. The markets are dried up. You do need liquidity. How do you get it? You have incentives for people to actually do it. You give it to bigger desks who are actually going to push flow through. Will they actually stand pat and make markets? That's up to them. There's no regulation around it. They could do whatever they want. So I think it's a bit of a double-sided coin.
And do you guys see eventually a consolidation of those? Instead of having 10 different stable coins pegged to dollar, et cetera, and how do you think that's going to play out?
I think it's good that there's a lot of different stable coins. I mean, maybe it gives just this variety and competition and so on, and you can diversify between them. So if there's some issues with one, so I don't think we necessarily have to see consolidation there. And also you have all the different coins from different the Swiss franc peg and USD. So I think it's good that we see as many as possible.
Yeah, I don't think we need 5 or 6 or 7 USD stablecoins. Maybe CoinFlex is going to launch one. I'm not sure. I don't think we need all of them. But of course, I think everyone knows the original one is one that can be replaced or should be replaced for whatever reason. So I think there's a lot of good theory behind it, and a lot of good sort of thought process went behind a lot of these. Whether or not they're going to be here forever, I don't know. I think stablecoins, of course, they are needed. Traders do require them. There's exchanges that live on them only. So I do think it is the trend and it is the future, but we do not need 6 or 7 in the same currency.
I agree. We probably don't need so many, but one nice one, for example, DAI, because it's on Ethereum, you can program it to do various things. So I think that has an extra, dimension completely than stablecoin that you can't do that with. So that's one thing.
Yeah, that's the truly decentralized stablecoin, so to speak, right?
Right. It has based on collateral. That's interesting too. But I mean, just the fact that you can program it into your smart contracts, that's huge, because you could do things like, for example, have an ICO 2.0 platform that auto converts your Ethereum raised into DAI, or a fund management platform like CoTrader. You can have the fund manager go into a position in DAI and have it auto rebalance the entire fund into DAI. You can't do that with Tether, and not completely on chain anyhow, and not without Oracle certainly. So that has an extra component.
Yeah, agreed. And I think a lot of the derivatives market, right, that we mentioned earlier, like Dharma, DYDX, also work very closely with DAI and just being kind of the favorite coin within the DEX world. So I certainly hope to see growth in that market as well. And I guess just moving on from tokenized dollar, right, as we broaden the scope for tokenized asset, right, what we touched upon earlier, tokenized derivatives, maybe a more matured lending market based on that, and swaps or options market based on that. Do you think this is some of the areas that you guys would be interested in going to this year or going forward?
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, not to harp too much on our product, but I mean, CoTrader would like to become the place where you can do fund management, all these types of assets, derivatives, shorts, and everything. And there's a group growing. For example, I mean, everyone here, they're all in the Telegram groups. One group that I like, it's not mine. It's decentralized finance. It's like D_Fi, and it's just you see a lot of collaboration from different groups, even set protocol for baskets of goods and total, and you have all the different ones coming together and DYDX and all these things. And so I think that it's really creating a network where we'll be able to do everything that you're talking about. Just fund management alone is like obviously huge, $85 trillion, but it's going to take a long time if and when that all comes over. But as Yoni was saying, we're going to see a lot of tokenization of assets, and these will come onto the blockchain. Eventually, they'll be, it could be in the trillions of dollars, and you're going to have these kind of platforms that are non-corruptible, immutable, and so on, transparent, and great. So.
Yeah, so I guess we're running out of time, but let's close with, I guess, the 2019 outlook. You mentioned on the DeFi space, and maybe we can all share what we think is the most exciting for 2019.
Yeah, I think we're going to focus on Bitcoin outlook. I think ICOs are dead. STOs, personal opinion, I don't think it's going to happen.
I think our big focus, as I mentioned, is just making sure that the liquidity, a lot of the liquidity, the large liquidity is coming from the OTC desks. So making sure we get all the large OTC desks on the platform, have an RFQ functionality, and that's what we see for the next year.
I think that 2019 may not be such a big year just because I'm not sure that the market's coming back right now. But we're going to see a lot of things developing, building, and it's good. People have their heads down and are building. I'm not sure we'll see a rush into anything just because the market's weak. And maybe it's a 4-year cycle because Satoshi decided to do the halving every 4 years. And who knows, maybe that creates kind of like a wave hitting a beach, and the supply runs low, and it creates this FOMO and the parabolic motion. And maybe we'll see a rise again only in 2021. Who knows? But I think we're going to see a lot of developments and everything that we've been talking about, and preparing for that time. Once things are performant, we'll see a really big radical change in all these spaces.
Yep, strategic type initiatives, nothing too fancy for this year, I don't think. It should be relatively quiet, which a lot of people probably don't want to hear, but it's probably going to be what happens. Institutional grade platforms, exchanges, insurance, custody, derivatives products over the counter, pretty much everything I spoke about before. I really do think this is the year that they quietly sort of make their move into everyone's portfolios.
Great. Well, thank you all. I hope that closes our Cheers panel. Thank you.
Thank you.